Back in 2002, while being in the army, I was serving as a mine and bomb expert at Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan. We were a small task force going in before the rest, clearing the airbase for mines bombs, preparing it for the thousands upon thousands of soldiers to arrive. Being there, I saw a lot of things, and one of the memories that always will stick to my mind is the thousands upon thousands of empty shoes with only bone pipes sticking up. These were young men being pulled off from madrasa schools in Pakistan to fight at the airport. They would be put into Toyota Hiaces supported by China, brought down to the airport. One was giving the gun, the other was to run behind, and just pushed over the minefields trying to breach them. That left, as I said, thousands upon thousands of shoes, and you know that equals thousands upon thousands of destinies. That among other operations I've been to, have made me to a man, a firm believer of peace. And I really hope that you, my listeners, also advocate for peace. Now we can see drafting suggestions coming up in UK, other countries as well. Everyone is warning that World War III is just around the corner. Be prepared is the motto by Sweden, by Norway, and many more. You, as a citizen, you can elect, and I promise you that there is no glory in war. You may wonder, so what does this have to do with a stock podcast? Well, if you listen to this podcast, I take up a lot of topics which I all relate to trading, investing. And I've been telling you over and over again that war is one of the places where you can and should probably be. Even in last week's podcast, I mentioned this thing. And it's been like that forever. It's where the money flows. You should put your positions. And I warned you long before the Ukraine war came that it would come and that the war industry would be where you wanted to be. Many think that this now is over the top, that potential is taken out, but it's far from taken out. It's much more to come in the war industry. There is nothing signaling that we are peaking the aggression that we see. And during the year, there will be a lot of elections around the world, in Europe, in US, and it's very important that you use your vote right. Do not always look what they say, but look what they do. There is a reason why we have all the violence, the escalations, and the conflicts that we see in the world. We have been left dominated in Europe, in US for quite some time, and that leads to bad stuff. It's a very simple equation. You don't have to agree to it. It's just a fact. Now, so what is actual ways to be? Well, if you went into some of the major companies, you would have very good gains. But if you went into companies like BA Systems, UK company, you would have 3 times your money in just a little over 1.5 years. If you went to All-in Corporation making ammunition, you would have 5 times your money. And there is a lot more of these companies, and some of them will make much more money. You are listening to the StockInvest.us podcast, Trading Tips with Jim, and I'm trying to give you trading tips. I started this podcast off in a very bad way with negative emotions, but you have to understand that you should not trade by emotions. You should trade by pure and simple logic. And the logic is very simple right now. As I said, we have governments across the world aiming for war. They are escalating in all possible ways. It is how you lift Iran sanctions, then you get a war. It's when you lift sanctions on organizations that you do know fund war. Just look what happened in Palestine. Turns out that UNRWA workers were participating in the war. It's how you deal with your politics, there will be a consequence, and everything that we see now is a consequence of politicians being in power, which again boil down to how you selected things. As I said, there will be a lot of election. In fact, I think it will be more than 50% of elections will happen in this year in the Western Hemisphere, and maybe if we are lucky, we will see good changes to more reasonable politics, and we can put all the conflicts brewing up behind us. But the situation is what it is, and if you heard this Swedish defense minister say that prepare for war, have batteries, have torchlight, etc., and more people are just saying the same thing. That means that there will be a huge supply for these kind of items. And just ask yourself, where do you want to be as an investor, as a trader? You want to be where the demand is, because if there is demand, the stock price will follow. There is no company that will be in an uprising trend of revenues that will not see an uptrend in stock price. It might be lagging, it might be a little bit off, but eventually it will follow. It's a very simple rule as such. So who will provide all the preparation? Because a lot of humans are now starting to think, well, maybe I should have something. Maybe I need water refinement filters. So who are producing these filters? You should maybe spend half an hour checking these things. Maybe you will not find any stock that you like. But I promise you, there will be huge money to be made in many of these companies. Because right now, yes, the stock exchange is moving up, but it's moving mainly on the big companies. And how long will that last? Well, nobody knows. There will be companies coming underneath. Some are, I just mentioned All-In Corporation, not much talk about All-In, but they have 5 times their stock prices over just a few years, and everything indicates that they will continue to do so. You can go to Norway, because Norway tried to be a peaceful nation, but look at our chief in command in NATO, his reasoning and logic. You do understand that Norway is not as peaceful as you think, and we have a lot of weapon industry in Norway. We condemn it by one hand and supply by the other, like most other countries do. And these weapon producers in Norway has been doing insanely good. And in US, of course, doing very good when you know that 80% of all aid is just being pushed back to US to produce more weapons, holding up unemployment rates, holding up industry supplying work, and it looks like it might continue. And Nasdaq had a good week last week, up almost 1%, up 0.88% for Nasdaq, ending at 15,445 points. Dow Jones was up 0.65%, and most of them are flirting with all-time high, and I believe Nasdaq should eventually break it. The most interesting thing in my world is that we are close to previous top at Nasdaq. Will we have a double top or not? It will be very interesting. What I do know is that the week ahead of us will continue with quarter results. Last week was a week full of quarter results. This week will be as well. I will mention a few of them shortly. Much attention will also Powell have on Friday when he will talk about the interest rates, about the data, and what they expect. Nobody expects him to increase the interest rates. Nobody expects him to reduce the interest rates. So it's more about the wording. What will he say? Now, if you follow the world news a little bit, you do know that there is more tension in the Middle East Ocean between the Houthis and cargo ships sailing in. There was one cargo ship which was struck yesterday, I think, by a air missile. Not sure if it's sunk or if it's still floating, but it's going up. Many ships have, and many companies have decided they will not take the risk going to the Suez Canal, shipping around, putting weeks and weeks of delay on cost, and that thing will delay on logistics, and that thing will push cost. Just so you know, pre-warning from this, I told you before inflation started that there would be a superinflation. It became an inflation. And again, I'm warning you, there are very many signs saying that inflation will ramp up again. We don't need much conflicts for that to happen. We still have to remember how goods flow through the world, and if there is an interruption, like now there is an interruption in the Suez Channel, that should push delays on goods. That will push prices up usually by itself, and then you have the extra cost in logistics, which again should push the cost up, and the spendings and it doesn't seem to have any end. Debt is just increasing. Money is being still poured into the system. But Wednesday is the day that people follow. So Wednesday, Thursday, you can expect markets to move. Then there will be job numbers. They are still holding up somewhat good. And as I said before, it's governmental sector and this war industry that is holding up most of the numbers, and people having to work 3 jobs to pay for all the increased costs over the last 3 years. Anyway, there will be quarter results this week, and you should pay attention. Maybe your company is one of them. And as I said before, and I will just repeat it this week, there is trades to be made when there is quarter results releases. Some stocks have a very, very specific pattern before quarter results, during quarter results, after quarter results. So here you can short or you can buy, whatever you do, puts and calls, whatever you like to do. If you believe these reactions will repeat. At stockinvest.us we have an earnings tab. You just go to your stock, find something called earnings, and you can click that, and you'll see we try to illustrate how the stock usually move before and after quarter results, during. And some of them have these very repetitive patterns, and that is where you can trade, because if you know that the stock usually fall after quarter results, you might put a short on it, or the opposite if you know that it usually go up, or if you are in a position which you really cannot afford to have very specific moves in the wrong direction, and you do know that the quarter results usually trigger some huge movements, maybe you should consider to lower your position or get out of the positions during quarter results, because doesn't take much for a stock to fall 20% if the quarter results do not come in. Philips will be today together with Sophie Technologies and Whirlpool, to mention some. On Tuesday it just continues. AMD will be, Google will be, Electronic Arts will be, General Motors will be, JetBlue will be, Microsoft will be, Pfizer will be, Starbucks will be, UPS will be. As you see, heavy names, heavy hitters coming out this week. We do know that the majority of companies, they are showing slowdowns in their revenues, while the big ones are doing better and better. The rich get richer during last or current administration. We see this across the world. It's also another thing. Boeing will be on Wednesday together with Novo Nordisk, Philips, etc. and Qualcomm will also be. Thursday, it just continues on Thursday. We will have Apple, Amazon, Meta will be, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line will be, United Steel will be, heavy companies. And if these things come in on the wrong end of the expectations, expect it to hit market relatively hard. If it comes in on the better side, and we have to remember that all expectations has been lowered, so we are talking already low expectations, but if they come in on the upper hand, it will continue to fuel the market. And so far last week it did, as I said, Nasdaq up 0.88%. On Friday, Chevron will be coming, ExxonMobil will be coming, so oil companies by the end of the week. I have, by the way, repositioned myself into oil. As you know, there is troubles in the Suez in the Mediterranean Sea, and it currently pushing oil price upwards, and I think oil is somewhat okay place to be. Now, many of these companies are reasonably priced as we speak. Oil up $5 to $78, trading around $78 and indicating that it may continue to push upwards. It's not as good as it used to be, but there seems to be an upside in oil as we speak. And at some point, US will have to refill their emergency stock, so we'll see how that will play out with all the conflicts brewing, and now even tighter and hotter with China, for instance. US sent military ship down the Taiwan, down next to Taiwan Strait, and that caused a quick response from China. So everything is getting more aggressive there as well, and you don't need much before oil can start to really move. Happens because most wars are also fueled by oil. Still, we do not drive electric tanks. Gold was up by $3 to $1,030, and the 10-year Treasury yield, everyone was celebrating while it fell under 4. It was down at 3.70 something, and I told him, well, it will not be so easy. There will not be the huge lowering of interest rates in 2024 like everyone says it will be. And when the first meeting for Fed was, and they said more or less what I told you already, it went back up, currently sitting at 4.16, and I think it might just push upwards. We do know that this number going up is not good for stock market, but so far stock market been in inverse correlation, in correlation where they usually should be inverse correlation. If it goes up, stock market should go down, but now both go up. I think this will catch up later. From a bigger perspective, like a big perspective, so we always say sell in May, go away. Will the stock market really be good all the way to May? Hard to say. I'm so confused what to believe, because the huge part of me tells me that we are really going down an extremely destructive way, and we are now just having a natural uptick in the markets that will not last. We are heading for doom and gloom. The other thing says that no, it doesn't take much. If we just get some peace talk, if we just get the right governments, if we just get the right mentality, we can be heading off for a glorious future, because AI, for instance, will change a lot of things, and there will be more growth, economic growth, as a consequence of AI. I will not go too deep about these things, but it has to do with like the previous revolutions that we had in terms of technology to move the world forward. What will it be this week? Well, everything, Nasdaq is still in a rising trend. Everything is indicating that it should push upwards. The buy and sell signals that we usually follow says that 35% of all companies have a buy signals. Is not too high. It's somewhat okay. Nasdaq 35, a little bit up from last week. New York Stock Exchange 38. That starts to get a little high, by the way. London 30, Frankfurt 40. Tokyo 47, and China China finally a little bit up from 7 to 12. And maybe you noticed, if you read the news, that China is trying to push down on short selling to see if they can hold the market a bit better. So that's how the situation is. The chances for an upturn this week is bigger than the chance for a downturn. But this week, many of the major companies will give their quarter results, and these things can, we just need a few of them to be in the bad direction, can really change the attitude of the market. And when we first start to get into that negative market, I think that the following fall, because we had such a strong upturn, the following falls will be somewhat hard. So when it turns, I think it will turn pretty hard, have a natural correction down. Now, if you didn't like what I said so far, put a dislike, and if you like it, put a like if you are listening at YouTube, and please comment if you think I say something totally out of the other world. You don't have to agree. I appreciate any sort of view. We are 20 minutes into the podcast. I don't see why we should make it a long podcast. I woke up this morning not motivated at all, and when I scanned all the news, I didn't get more motivated. Lack of motivation, and it may just sound in the podcast as well. So why prolong it? There is nothing really smart to say. We just have one thing left, and that is the $1,000 challenge, and that should have motivated me, but it didn't. Last week I told you I would go into Lucid, and as I posted on the YouTube video, I bought Lucid for $265, pushing up about 3. Everything was looking okay, and then Tesla reported their pre-results, causing a huge fall for the electric vehicles, and Lucid was taken down from a very nice profit to $265. So currently sitting with no gains at all in Lucid. And looking at the charts, I love what I see in both NIO and Lucid. I think they are bound for a natural upturn. So I will not change position. I will sit in Lucid also this week and see if we can get a little back on the track, because I think if these stocks first get a little momentum, they should do somewhat okay. We are far behind the schedule of doubling and tripling the $1,000 challenge. Currently we are only up around some 25-26% if I'm not mistaken. Could even be close to 30. I have to look. But last week's fall, the prior week's fall in NIO took a little toll on the profit. So we have to see if we can get back on the train. Sum it up. So maybe you didn't learn anything and you wonder, so what was in it for me? What was the main things that Jim said? So here is a short recap. Oil is moving up. Oil look reasonable to me, and there is many arguments why oil should continue up. War industry has been and will be continue to be a very good place to be. I showcased you a few of them, like All-in making ammunition up 5 times already over just 2 years. There are more companies like this. There are hidden gems. You just have to find them. Remember, someone has to sew the suits, the armors. Someone has to deliver the electronics behind, for instance, the UAVs, the drones, etc. Drone company I saw was up 2-3 times as well. But someone has to deliver the electronics, smaller components. There is a lot of things in war to support the war industry. The shell casings, who are delivering the shell casings for the ammunition? There are ways you can go in, and as long as this thing continue, because every single country now is arming up, the demand should be very high, meaning the profit should be very high, because if the demand is high, you can just ask whatever you want in price. That's the good thing of high demand, meaning that you should have very, very strong revenues. During COVID, we saw how Pfizer and all these were scamming the market with their products. Scaremongering, pushing stock prices insane high, and when that faded, the air went out of the balloon. The same thing will happen to the war industry when these things starts to come down, but not. I cannot see that happening actually in years, because there is already put money aside in the budget to increase everything related to the army and your peace protections. So there is, in the chart, everything looks like that Nasdaq has a fair chance of continuing up this week. There will be many quarter results. You can trade on this. Make sure that you at least know when your quarter result is. And I will stay in Lucid. Now, what is left is just to wish you a beautiful week. Remember, there is much more to life than just trading. There is so many nice things to do, and you should pick up on hobbies. If you don't have one, pick on up a good hobby, because it will help you. Maybe you've been into a green streak lately, maybe you've been into a red streak lately. Emotions hammer your decisions. You have to be stone cold when trading and don't let emotions affect you. And if you have hobbies or good support system in your family, friends, girlfriend, whatever it is, will help you when the high and the low hit you while trading. I will be hopefully back in a week, and I hope that you will be back in a week, and I hope that maybe you will just leave me a like if you like the podcast, or a comment if you want to comment on everything. And I'll see you in just a week. Bye.
Welcome to StockInvest.us Stock Analysis. We remind you that trading involves a high risk of losing money, and that you should speak with a financial advisor before buying or selling any securities. You should not base your investment decision upon StockInvest.us. By using the information you agree and are held liable for your own investment decisions.